gentlemen, welcome to Ariel Helwani's MMA Show!
Back in your life on this Monday, October 22nd, 2018. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani. Welcome back to the program. Hope you had a lovely weekend. Hope you're enjoying the fall weather wherever you may be, unless you're in Australia, where I think it's starting to become summer. And if that is the case, I'm very jealous. It's very cold outside. I can't handle it. People think I'm Canadian. I can handle it. I can't really handle it. If I could, I would move out west. I would have summertime 24/7, 365, all year, all day, every day. But alas, that is not the case. Anyhow, we have a lot to discuss. It was a relatively quiet weekend in MMA. There was just the PFL playoffs. There was some news here and there, but you remember at the end of last week's show, I said, hey, I hope it's a quiet week. Guess what? It was a pretty quiet week. We've got a lot to discuss on today's program with a lot of interesting people. We have 2 in-studio guests. We've got the post-show coming up. We even have a surprise interview after the post-show. Much to look forward to. Let me run down today's lineup, and then we'll get to our first guest of the day. Valentina Shevchenko at 3:45, the newest member of ONE Championship. Eddie Alvarez at 3 o'clock. Darren Till at 2:45. Michaela Mayer, 2016 Olympic boxer, in studio at 2:05. Megan Anderson will be on at 1:45, 1:50-ish. Ally Quinta, who faces Kevin Lee in Milwaukee, at 1:35. Ryan Bader at 1:20. But first, without further ado, let us not waste any time. Probably the biggest news of the week happened late Friday when we found out that the co-main event for UFC 230, Luke Rockhold versus Chris Weidman, has been canceled. Rockhold injured his right knee, injured his left shin again, and also broke his nose. Very quickly, the UFC booked a fight that I've been dreaming about for quite some time. Ronaldo Jacare Souza against Chris Weidman as the new co-main event. That's the fight I wanted from the get-go. Let's talk to Chris about this. He joins us now on the phone. Christopher, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you. So, by the way, we haven't talked about this publicly. When did we change from @Chris Weidman UFC to @Chris Weidman? I like this. It's big picture thinking on social media. Very nicely done on your part. When did that happen?
I'm not. I think my manager did that. Jim Walter did that when I signed with him. He thought it was like a good idea.
That's a job well done.
Yep.
I feel like this is a sign of perhaps things like you sort of looking past just being a UFC. You should never tie your name just to your employer. That doesn't make sense in my opinion.
I agree. There's definitely you definitely could argue for that.
Yeah. I'm sure you thought you'd be talking about this right off the bat, but no, the most important thing is you versus Jacare, UFC 230. When did you find out that Luke was out?
When did that news break? Friday?
Yeah.
Was it Friday? Yeah, about Friday. I was getting ready for a workout at 4 o'clock. It was about like 3:45. I was ready to go through a hard workout, and we actually just were talking about different strategies for Luke, and we were going to be working them in that session. I had one the boy in, and I was on the toilet, and and also my manager called me and texted me. I'm like, answered it, and he said, I have some information for you that you're going to need some processing for. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Literally.
And he said, Luke got injured. He's out for 6 months. Or at least that's what I guess he thought at first, or was told. And they want you to fight Jacare. And they would, after you win, then they're going to fly you out to Australia to do something, possible for be ready to be a replacement for the main event, which, I mean, all that stuff was nonsense to me anyway, because I knew, I beat Luke. I was fighting for the title anyway, so it's not like, it was extra incentive. But it was a no-brainer. I just, I was pissed off, obviously, at first. I really was prepared for Luke. I've been focused on this fight for a long time. I was really excited for it, to get that rematch. I felt really good about that fight. So I went into the gym and then talked to Ray, and I mean, I'm in really good shape. I really haven't felt better than this. I've been training for probably about 14, 15 weeks pretty hard. And I believe I'm the best guy in the world. So whoever they throw in front of me on the day of the fight, I'm ready to go out there and beat and show that. So Jacare is a tough opponent, brings a lot to the table, and he's been a guy who's been on my radar for such a long time anyway, so it's definitely another exciting fight for me.
Was Jacare the only name that was presented to you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And I said at the top, this is a fight that I've always wanted to see for some reason. I think because of how good, back when you started, how good of a grappler we knew about your grappling and how you were kind of this prodigy, ADCC, all that stuff. Is this a guy that you've been watching for a long time, long before you were in the UFC, and said, oh, it'd be fun to compete against him?
Yeah, actually, when I did the Abu Dhabis in 2009, he had a super fight during that tournament, I think against Drysdale. And he actually was cornering when I was in the semifinals of the Abu Dhabis in my weight class against Andre Galvao, who at the time obviously was a couple, maybe, I don't know, 5, 6-time world champion. And we had a really good match, and Jacare was in his corner. And, obviously he was in my weight class. He was in Strike Force. I was in the UFC. And, I felt like at some point we were definitely going to fight. And so here we are.
Has the UFC told you guys, I know you said you didn't really care about the standby stuff, but is this a number one contender fight?
Yes. I win this fight, I'm fighting for the title. I was definitely, obviously close to fighting for the title before this fight, just beating Gastelum and finishing him. It was between me and him who was going to be fighting Whitaker. They decided to go with Gastelum, and so I go out there and I do my thing against Jacare. I don't think there's a question.
This card has been, it's been a roller coaster just getting to November 3rd. About the whole main event thing. You've remained relatively quiet when it came to all of this. Diaz, Poirier, Cormier sliding in there against Lewis. What do you make of the card? You fought on that first card. It was legendary. Of course, you headlined on Long Island, but this is not exactly like, as far as depth, like those two first events at MSG. What do you make of the card now?
I'm obviously worried about myself and going out there and getting a win. That's the most important thing to me. But I still think, sometimes these cards that don't end up looking great on paper end up becoming the best cards, in history. So MSG has a funny way of making fights really exciting and creating history. And I wouldn't be surprised if this card ends up becoming one of the best cards of all time. There's definitely some exciting fights on the card, and definitely some curveballs thrown in there with the Black Beast coming out against Cormier for the title. So there's definitely some exciting stuff to look forward to.
How is your hand/thumb feeling?
I feel great. Yep, my thumb healed up, and it took a long time. Obviously, I had 2 surgeries. That's why I was out. But that's why I started camp so early. I really wanted to make sure my thumb was good and get the sparring in and really be able to grapple and punch with it and be okay and feel confident with it. And I did that. So it ended up healing perfect.
You've had some year-long layoffs in your career, a little more than a year. This is one of the longer ones. Are you, the ring rust thing is always interesting. Like Dominic Cruz vehemently against the idea of ring rust. John Kavanagh telling me a couple weeks ago that he thought it maybe played a little bit of a factor in Conor McGregor's game. Are you the kind who feels like it will take a couple of minutes just to get your bearings in there?
Nah, I don't think so. I think the more you're able to meditate on like the fight and visualize, and the more you could spar and put yourself in that fight scenario in your mind. And in the gym, if you dumb it down to just another sparring session, which I like to do when I head into fights, then I don't think there really is the ring rust thing. If you try to avoid the thought of being in a fight in your mind leading up to a fight because it kind of makes you anxious and nervous, and you're not putting that mental practice in heading into a fight, I think it can affect you. But I haven't steered clear of the visualizations of the fight leading into this one, and so I'm ready to go. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah. No, I get it.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if I just sounded crazy with that, but
You're trying to say because you're a fighter, I've never fought before, I wouldn't understand the complexities of what you're saying. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm just saying, like, because obviously you got the mental and the physical, and there's been times where I've avoided thinking of the fight leading up to a fight, because it makes you anxious, and it's just like, it gets you excited, and at the end of the day, it really just comes down to that day of the fight anyway. So why are you putting this time and energy into thinking about it all the time if you can't change what's going to happen in that fight at that time anyway. But I changed my mindset with that a little bit. I like to think about it as much as I can actually, and just make sure that just like I would be doing physically, putting the practice in physically, I'm doing it mentally too. So when I get in there, it's already something I've already gone through.
Luke's a southpaw, Jacare orthodox. How much does that change the next couple of weeks?
When I first started the camp, actually, we didn't have that many southpaws, so I did a lot of boxing sparring straight up with orthodox guys, and obviously it's easier to find orthodox people for training, and easier for coaches to hold orthodox for pads. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. Both guys are good on their feet. Both guys are very dangerous on the floor. They both bring that problem to the table. I know what I bring, and it's really just just go out there and do my thing. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's a fight, it's a fist fight, and it doesn't matter what side the guy has forward. You gotta try to beat him up. That's it.
The Rockhold fight, I know, was somewhat personal for you, right? Because he's the guy who beat you for the belt, and you were supposed to rematch, and then you got hurt. And now here's the opportunity to come back against him after the layoff, and you told us you were annoyed that you were passed up. And he represents a lot. You don't have that same sort of connection to Jacare. Does it feel like a bit of an emotional letdown that the guy you'll be facing is not Rockhold, since there's like such a rich history between you two at this point?
No, I mean, honestly, with Rockhold, I wasn't making this personal in my mind. I wasn't thinking of it that way. I wanted that rematch. I wanted redemption just because I'm super competitive, and I know I wasn't at my best in that first fight with him. I know I could have done better, and I know I could beat him, and I wanted to be able to prove that and have that second shot of doing it. All the other crap, everything that was said back and forth, I don't care as much as I do about just competing and being who I think I am. And so, it's the same thing with Jacare. This is more of a pure, I feel like it's probably going to be more of a pure martial art contest, less, trash talk, less people thinking of, trash talk. I know I wasn't going to be, I wasn't going in there taking it personal and getting emotional or anything like that. But in this one, I feel like it's really just a martial artist dream scenario. I mean, definitely have two really good athletes that are good everywhere, accoladed in multiple areas. So I think it's definitely going to be an exciting fight, and that a lot of the purists could get excited about.
I have to say, a part of me is surprised that I even got a few minutes with you here this Monday, because just like perusing on your Instagram daily, which I usually like to stalk, sometimes I'll slide into the DMs. As you know, you'll ignore me, but I see that you saw it because it says seen. But you're always with celebrities. Like there was a...
Let's just say that's a lie.
What do you mean?
I sliding into my DMs with no reply. Come on, stop that.
It's like 1 out of every 5. I try to encourage. But anyway, like you're working out with Kevin James.
It rhymed a little bit. You almost got me rapping on that.
You're hanging out with Enes Kanter doing workouts. It's like always celebrities. Your life is amazing. You're always with the A-listers. I love it. What were you doing with Kevin James for that stretch? It seemed like you were his personal trainer for a minute.
Man, Kevin's one of my good friends at this point. We've been really close friends for like, I don't know how many years, probably almost 5 years. So yeah, us and our families are really close. We went to Rome together. We get the families together all the time. So we're just close friends. He's definitely a mentor to me in a lot of ways, and we feed off each other. And he's extremely successful, so he has a lot of things that he helps me and teaches me. And then obviously I try to help him with the physical sometimes, making sure he's staying in shape, and we just try to keep each other accountable. But he's an awesome guy, obviously super talented, and just a really good person to be friends with.
And you and Enes Kanter workout buddies now? I know you were helping him with some basketball moves, but then I saw him at the gym too.
Oh, that guy! What energy that guy has!
Yes,
it's unbelievable. The Knicks are super lucky to have him. Just a guy who's really proud to be in New York. Doesn't back down with the whole Turkish thing. I mean, with the Turkish regime, politically, he's not afraid to stand up for himself and his countrymen. And I don't really understand. I haven't really dove in to understand what's really going on with that. But I give him a lot of credit for not being afraid and standing up for himself.
Yeah.
And it's definitely pretty impressive. And the guy, he's a freaking monster. I mean, he came down to our gym and we put him through a workout, and got his hands looking sharp, and did a circuit training workout, and I was blown away. So I kind of could judge somebody how strong they are not by like bench or squat, more like pull-ups. And a guy who is 6'11", I was thinking maybe the guy gets 3 pull-ups in. I'm pretty sure he hit 20 pull-ups, and we did multiple sets. I was blown away about how strong he is. I mean, as a wrestler, I grew up my whole life doing pull-ups, so pull-ups is one of my top things. And he was right there with me, back and forth, and I'm like, what the this guy, he's a freak. That guy's a freak.
I have to say, just talking to you less than 2 weeks before your long-awaited return, I was at Nassau Coliseum a couple weeks ago for the Fedor fight. Saw Mr. Weidman, by the way. That was a pleasure. That's the last time we saw you fight. Just knowing, like, I feel like, as I've told you, Won't Back Down, one of the all-time greats in terms of walkout songs. But if you could sprinkle in a little Roy Jones Jr., Y'all Must Have Forgot, because I feel like you are one of the most sort of like forgotten guys in that division, maybe even in the UFC at this point. Like, just to have Weidman back at MSG to exercise the demons of UFC 205, the dream matchup against Jacare. I'm more excited now about this fight. Like, I'm sorry that it's at Luke's expense, but this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. To me, this is the people's main event of UFC 230. This is a really big deal. I'm getting excited just hearing you. Like, we've been through so much over the past year and a half. This is a very exciting development. That's all. I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate you amping me up, man. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. And if anybody forgot, on November 3rd, in less than 2 weeks, I will definitely refresh your memory. And I have a long road to go as far as my goals and what I want to accomplish in this sport. And I'm excited to go out there and share with everybody. So it's going to be a fun night.
Do you believe in the exercising demon things, like going back and righting the wrong? I know you're a religious guy, but do you believe in that sort of thing?
Righting the wrong. I mean, listen. I'm super competitive, and fights. They seem more personal, and there's trash talk and everything. But I'm an ultimate competitor. Like, I love what I do. If I was to go back and do everything all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. As far as what I do for a living, I'm not one of those guys who walk around thinking, oh man, I should have chose golf. You make more money and your body feels fine. I don't think there's anything more powerful than the absolute competition of mixed martial arts. Every martial art that's ever been around, one-on-one. I'm more of the type of athlete that needs that physical, threat. I don't know what word I'm looking for, like thrashing. I need to be either tackling people. Like, football would be something like another type of sport. I need something really like a brutal type sport. And I'm just so blessed to live in the era where UFC is legalized, and this is something I can do for a living. I love what I do, and I'm excited to be able to share it with the world.
And now, to tie it all together before we say goodbye, as I said, you dropped the UFC from your name because at some point you're going to have to transition out of this sport. You're great on camera.
Can you stop doing that?
What?
You're an instigator. I know what you're doing right now, and
what am I doing?
It wasn't this super conscious decision that was.
I'm not instigating. I'm trying to give you props.
You started the interview with it. Now you're finishing the interview with it.
I'm about to plug your special on MSG and say that you're a phenomenal host and you're great on camera. And I'm a big fan of Weidman's World that airs on MSG, my second favorite network behind ESPN. 3-part series that I thought was going to be canceled when Rockhold dropped out, but they're still keeping it on. My friend Larry Torres told me this earlier today, and now you're going to crap on me for that? Wow. Here I am giving you a plug, unsolicited
Ariel,
plug.
It's the small things. I know it's the small things. And then you finished strong, though. I appreciate it. But I had to stop you before we got to all that. I knew you were going to finish strong because you're the best. But
Well, thank you.
I had to stop you on that one again.
All right. Well, MSG has an all-access series. They've been following you. You have this special called Weidman's World. It's going to be a 3-part series leading up to November 3rd. And the timing was horrible because the news release came out like an hour before the Rockhold news came out. But they tell me it's a bit of a curveball, but they're going to still air it after Knicks games and whatnot. So I'll be watching because I watch all the Knicks games, watch them lose every night. It's great. And I love that they're getting behind you. I love that they're getting behind you like this. This is awesome. Even though you insulted me at the end, I am still going to watch it.
Did I insult you?
You said I'm instigating. What am I doing? I'm giving you props for having the foresight to drop the UFC and just be Chris Weidman.
Hang on. Is instigating a bad thing? Is that negative?
I feel like there's a negative connotation. Yes.
Is it because you've been called out on instigating things before and you kind of took it as an insult because it was under some severe
unfairly? I would say unfairly. I was accused of it unfairly.
I don't mean to hit a nerve that has been hit before, but maybe this is small in the when it comes to everything else. But I'm just messing with you, man. It's all good.
Yeah, well, I have to say once again, it's great to have you back, and it's good to hear from a Long Islander. Sad day today, Charles Wang passing away, longtime owner of the New York Islanders. So it's good to hear from a Long Islander. My man Jake in the back is a huge fan of yours.
Yes,
you know about Charles Wang, right? You heard about that?
Of course. You know, Wonder Boy actually did a private lesson in his complex, and I think it's in Lloyd Harbor on Long Island. I mean, he was telling me he went there and did with his grandson, or I think it was his grandson. He did a private with, and he had the largest Chinese garden in America or the world, something crazy. But yeah, he was telling me about how nuts that house was.
Wow, that is incredible. Well, my condolences to the Wang family. I know Islander fans are fans of his and appreciate that he kept the team in New York. Chris, I appreciate the time. As always, much love. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks for doing this. I know you're a very busy man. You don't have time for us rinky-dink MMA shows, so thanks for squeezing us in on this Monday afternoon.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. There he is, Chris Weidman stopping by, the potential #1 contender in the middleweight division. He faces Jacare Souza on Saturday, November 3rd, Madison Square Garden in the People's main event.